talked about taking care of your soul. We also talked about taking care of your fellow man, particularly in the city of Chicago. We need to also talk about taking care of our bodies, something that is always important, but something that has become, frankly, more difficult, more challenging for a lot of people. So many of us are shut-ins effectively now, are largely shut-ins at home. The gyms are closed. Sports teams are not happening for young folks. And it's a challenge. I think it's tempting, particularly when the weather's cold like it is today. It's quite tempting to watch TV or flip around online and eat and get out of shape. So to help us deal with all of these issues is a friend of mine, Andy Pataki, who has been, much to his chagrin, my fitness trainer at different times at the Union League Club of Chicago. So, Andy, thank you for joining the show. And by the way, follow him on social media. He's on Instagram at Coach Potts, Potts, and then the number 1. So, Andy, first, before we get into your advice for fitness and how people can work out with you or with somebody else in terms of distance training, I want to talk first about your background and how you came to be a full-time professional fitness instructor. You grew up in the south side of Chicago and played for Mount Carmel football. You were a bit of I'll say this because you might not, you were a bit of a star, and you were a quarterback, and you were number 1, just like Donovan McNabb. Isn't that right?
I did, Steve. And before we get started, I just want to say congratulations on finally having a legitimate excuse for not meeting with me in the gym. I don't know how you did it, but once the global pandemic broke out, I was like, that's good. Steve finally has a reason. Everything up until then has just been excuses, so congratulations on that.
Oh, gosh.
Yes.
Coach, I can count on you for saltiness. All right, tell us about Mount Carmel days.
Yes, I was born into football, actually. My dad was a football player at Mount Carmel, and then he obviously went on to play college football and then coach at Mount Carmel, and then I attended the school as well. But even before then, I was the ball boy and water boy going on some of those state championship teams. So then when I got there, we were fortunate to win the state championship my junior year, which was probably one of the better teams in Illinois history. Of course, I didn't start that year, but my senior year I did. We went 10-2, which at the time seemed like it was the worst team in Mount Carmel history, but I broke several school records. Unfortunately, one of them was quarterback rushing yards in a game versus Donovan, and that was previously held by Donovan McNabb. So
that's terrific. Good for you. Okay, and then you went on to play football at West Point. You went to U.S. Military Academy at West Point, played football, also ran a bit of track, so you're an all-around athlete. And then how did you decide, after that illustrious career in school, both high school and college, how did you decide to get into fitness full-time?
So I didn't finish out the football career at West Point. In fact, my junior year, I joined what was called the strength team, and we would take other athletes through their routine. So that was my first opportunity to be what I would call a personal trainer. Basketball teams, wrestling teams, all that type of stuff. So it just became kind of a gym rat hanging out there, and I had a really good strength coach named, we just called him Satan. I couldn't even tell you his real name, although it's Scott Swanson.
You called him Satan?
And he was we called him Satan. Everyone called him Satan. He was a phenomenal person. He was a phenomenal coach, and that's kind of what sparked my interest in strength and conditioning. So went off, came back to Chicago after graduation, did some things, but then right around 2007, 2008, I decided to become a professional personal trainer, and I've been doing it ever since.
Wonderful. Okay. And right now, and I know you do a lot of training remotely. You did before the virus hit, before this current crisis. And I think I questioned you on it last time you were on. How effective is it? Well, people are really going to find out now, right? So, but tell us, convince us that you can effectively train with a trainer and not be physically present with them.
Steve, it's the problem that we're having is not that people are doing the wrong things. The problem we're typically having is that people aren't doing anything. So this is a phenomenal opportunity. Nobody has any excuses about, I hear a lot of people don't like going to the gym, don't have time, et cetera, so forth, can't afford it. Well, guess what? You have a gym. It's in your home. And guess what? If you don't have any equipment, that's fine. And at the very most, you only need the bare minimum. A set of dumbbells will do just fine, a resistance band. You can even get creative. I've seen several posts. I'm starting to have my clients. We just put a couple books into a backpack and then do squats that way for an additional resistance. Picking up milk jugs. I mean, honestly, the opportunities are endless, and they're only capped by how creative you could possibly be.
I know on that same sort of theme, because I know you've coached CrossFit in the past as well, and CrossFit, a lot of the CrossFit workouts, I know historically, they came out of troop deployments in Iraq and Afghanistan, particularly when people would be at places without a gym. I think eventually they do set up gyms, of course, in those military installments over there, those forts. But at first, when people are forward deployed, there's not, and they figured out ways to work out with crazy stuff, right? To just, to get resistance, to get weights, and a lot of CrossFit really grew. CrossFit already existed before that, but it really grew in large measure because of those military people just being totally practical, as you talk about. And so a lot of people who are home right now, they certainly are not in the dire situation and the danger that military people were, but still, they're in a different situation, in some ways an uncomfortable one for them, can't easily go to the gym and have to get creative, and people like you can help that. So I want to talk more about that, about the actual specifics of what people can do at home without equipment or without very much equipment with Coach Andy Pataki. More coming up next. We are talking fitness because it is the Friday Happiness Hour, and part of being happy, part of having a meaningful life is being physically fit, something that's gotten more difficult for a lot of folks because of all of the restrictions of coronavirus, particularly with all of the gyms being closed. And to help me talk about options and strategies is my friend Andy Pataki, who is a personal trainer and fitness coach. You can follow him on social media. He's on Instagram at Coach Potts. #1, Potts #1. So, Andy, we were talking about you wore Donovan McNabb's number when you were a quarterback like he was at Mount Carmel High School. You broke even some of his records. I'm going to ask you a trivia question about Donovan McNabb. He's one of only two men to achieve something really, really significant, which is only two people have ever played in an NCAA Final Four and in an NFL Super Bowl. Basketball Final Four, and, of course, the Pro Football Super Bowl. He is one of two people. Both have a Chicago connection. I'll give you a little hint.
Oh.
Who is the other one? Can you tell me?
Played in a Super Bowl and an NCAA Final Four. With the Chicago connection. No, that's a good one. Yeah,
Can you think of the other one? That's a pretty tough one. I'll just let you. I'll tell you. I bet a couple of listeners know. I bet not very many. Julius Peppers is the other one.
No, I wouldn't have got that.
Who did it at North Carolina. But I mean, talk about a versatile athlete. Like, not only do you play both sports, but to play them at that level, to play on a Final Four team and a Super Bowl team. But listen, let's get back to. We're not here though to talk about super athletes. We're here to talk about regular people who want to stay fit, which has become difficult for some folks. We were talking about CrossFit and how functional fitness doesn't necessarily have to involve a lot of weights. Can you talk about that and your philosophy of training?
Yes, well, CrossFit, I don't do it exclusively anymore. I'm still a CrossFit Level 2 trainer, but the thing that it spawned from was originally was weightlifting, which is a lot of barbell exercises, and then metabolic conditioning, which could be swimming, running, stair climbing, anything that has to do with elevating the heart rate, and then gymnastics, which is zero weights at all. It's all body weight training. So to say that you can't get a good workout without any weights is kind of misleading. When it comes to resistance training, whether you're using your body or anything else, all we're talking about is pushing and pulling and some lower body exercises. So push-ups, pull-ups, trying to find a way to bend over rows, and then obviously doing shoulder presses or pushing straight overhead, and that's it. So you might need some resistance in order to do the shoulder exercises, but then again, you could also get upside down and do handstand push-ups or what we call pike press. I mean, there's just constant variations, but if you're just thinking about pushing and pulling in the different directions, you're going to get a great workout.
Right. Okay. And what about for people, though, who say, I do need help, which is going to be a lot of people, right? So they say, I need help. Obviously, there's a lot of things out there online. There's a lot of YouTube videos, but there's also a lot of misinformation. And what are you doing? What's your website? And what are you doing with clients in terms of, because I know you were, as I said, you were already doing this anyway. You were doing sort of distance training. Now everybody's doing it. So what's your website and how do you do it, Andy?
So the way I do it is I just have people get in contact with me. We'll do a quick over the phone or via Skype 15-minute consultation, just kind of know what some of your limitations are, some of your goals are. I put together a plan for you, and we kind of go from there. I've been using the Zoom meetings so I can actually view you exercising if that's something that you would like to do, or I can just set you up with a plan as well, and you can follow it along. So it really depends on your needs and your skill level and how comfortable you are with weights. But just because we're not in the same room doesn't mean you can't get a great workout. And at the end of the day, it really is about you putting in the good workout.
Right. Well, and when you talk about being able to watch on the Zoom, so it sounds like, and you mentioned this in the last segment as well, accountability is as much a part of this as your expertise. Now, I mean, of course you have expertise, Andy. I'm not trying to knock it at all, but it sounds like the accountability part is just as important, if not maybe more important, for a lot of your clients. Is that correct?
Yes, absolutely. Steve, one thing I want to get out there, if you go to CoachPotts.com, the homepage is my schedule, and you click on the links from there. At 6:30, Tuesday through Friday, and Monday through Friday at noon, I have free 25-minute workouts. We typically get anywhere from 5 to 20 people to join. And, before we're always chatting, afterward, we're always sticking around. And you start to see the same names, you start to see the same people, and then you start to kind of get to know these people. And it really is just like having a boot camp in the park or going to the gym and having your favorite group get the class. And there's no difference. The only difference is we're just doing it from the comfort of our own homes.
Okay, and you're doing that for free. Anybody can log on and join you in those workouts.
Anybody, and I make modifications for people who can't do all the exercises, and then they're pretty challenging, just to begin with too, so they really are welcome to all levels.
Right. Okay. And how about this too, just on a practical level, for people who have not worked out previously, let's say, and have decided that they're going to because maybe they have more time on their hands, right? Maybe they're not working as much or sadly not working at all, and that's a terrible situation a lot of people are in, but their situation will only get worse if they get physically unfit, right, or their health deteriorates in addition to the work predicament that they're in. And I know I've mentioned this to you in previous segments that you've been on the show, but hopefully things are warming up. We never know in March in Chicago or even April or even May for that matter, but reasonable at least, not polar vortex level. Just long walks, I'm guessing, is it particularly for people who aren't yet working out in a regular way? I mean, isn't that both mentally and physically really beneficial?
Of course. I mean, honestly, just a breath of fresh air, getting outside. Just because we're quarantined doesn't mean you're not allowed to go around the block. And honestly, if you can go around the block several times, just anything to just boost the heart rate a little bit, get the blood pumping, get the body moving. They say that sitting is the new smoking, and most of us have desk jobs. So, being over in that slumped over position for, 8 to 10 hours a day is not doing the body any good. Getting outside, going for a half hour, maybe an hour walk. The bare minimum is just elevating the heart rate 20 minutes, 3 times a week. If you sign on to CoachPotts.com, you have 5 opportunities to get those 20-minute work in. So honestly, it's just about doing something. Don't let this quarantine be an excuse to continue to not work out or to let your workouts go by the wayside. What they are is an opportunity to try something new, and to honestly, who knows, you may end up liking doing bodyweight workouts as opposed to going to the gym.
Right. Listen, I'm glad you brought this up. I promise you I'm going to log on and do it with you. We've been working, the whole Cortes family has been working out in our garage. My wife turned it into, I call it the pop-up pandemic gym. And you know what I've been doing, for instance, which is a lot harder than people might think, is just shadow box. So, just put on gloves, or if you don't have boxing gloves, just hold something. Gloves only weigh a pound, so hold something that weighs a pound. Keep your hands up, okay, and do it with a timer. And shadow box for 2 to 3 minutes, which is a standard boxing round, amateur or pro. Half-minute or minute rest in between. I think even people in good shape will be shocked at the kind of workout they will get if they shadow box, move around, and keep their hands up. Don't ever let them get near your waist. So anyway, just a very simple thing, but something that I'm doing. I did it today. I'm going to keep doing it because I normally love lifting weights. I can't lift weights right now, and that's what I'm going to have to do. So Coach Potts, listen, thank you so much for being here. I'm going to join you, I promise, for a Zoom workout. I know you don't believe me, but I will.
Let's do it.
And I hope some of the listeners do as well. Have a wonderful weekend. So listen, folks, thank you so much for your time. This has been one crazy week. We've covered a massive amount of topics. I think there are reasons to be hopeful. And I don't mean false hope. I don't mean being Pollyanna, but there are